everybody. Thanks for watching. I've got Mr. Gene Kissinger here with me today, and we're going to spend some time talking. Pretty excited about it. We were actually having a good conversation before I started the camera, just basically on communication. Really enjoying that. So hope you enjoy it. We're going to get into that, and I think we were kind of talking about just deciding what you want to say sometimes, right?
Definitely be more intentional in our communication. One of the things that's a struggle with me is I'm a person that I talk my way through what I'm thinking, you know, and so sometimes that'll get me in trouble because I haven't fully formulated the concept that I'm trying to communicate. So say I might come up to you, maybe there's a problem or an issue, and I'm still trying to figure it out. So I'm telling you stuff before I've really totally processed how I really feel about it or what I really think about it. I'm still formulating that, but words are coming out of my mouth that are expressing some point of view, and you might radically disagree with that point of view that I'm talking about, but I might not even agree with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
In the final analysis, you know, so that's one of the things that's caused me a lot of troubles. I'm not always intentional in my communication.
And I think one of the things I find too is that if maybe it's that I've been smacked enough by communicating too quickly that I'm almost hesitant to say things sometimes, which I can't think of it right now, but there is a hypothesis out there that says that generally if people are in a room trying to figure something out, the person that knows the most is the least likely to speak.
Right.
Which I think is kind of frightening.
There's a rock and roll version of that. It's once bitten, twice shy. So the guy that actually knows the most has probably been bitten before, and so he's like, I wonder when they're going to stop talking about this.
Yeah. Well, and you were telling me an interesting story about a submarine.
Oh, I listened to a podcast about some declassified issues that took place during the late 60s, and there had been a Russian sub that had been sent over to Cuba, actually to kind of patrol the waters in Cuba, and it originally was a cold water submarine, and so now it's in the essentially tropical waters of the United States and the Caribbean, and it's set up for cold, and they're blistering hot inside the submarine because it's not set up for that. Yeah. So they're getting dehydrated. They're working these long shifts. They don't know why they're there because it was a surprise thing that sent them there. They were expecting to go somewhere else, and then Russia sends them north up into Florida waters, kind of up in that area. And the Americans, of course, stumbled upon a Russian submarine. It's a Russian nuclear submarine, and they start dropping depth charges down. The Russian captain is sure that the Americans are starting a war with him, and he pounds the table, and he goes, "We're not going to shame Mother Russia, and we're going to launch." And his XO or one of the officers pulls him to the side and says, maybe we should just go up and talk to the Americans first to find out what their intentions are.
Yeah.
And they do go to periscope depth. They talk. They realize the Americans are not trying to start World War III, that they're just in American waters, and they drop down and disappear, not to be heard from again by the Americans, fortunately, because had we heard from them, it might have been World War III. And so this man, by being a cool head and by arguing for more communication before action is taken, perhaps averted a third world war.
Saved most of our lives.
Yeah, man, he certainly kept us from glowing in the dark.
Yeah,
which I'm kind of fond of.
I'd rather not glow in the dark if I don't have to.
I mean, you know, it might be handy out camping or something, but I'm just saying, you might not survive the experience of glowing in the dark.
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, and so, I mean, obviously that's probably about as most extreme example as you could get of cooler heads. I think, didn't John F. Kennedy, I may not get it exactly right, say something about the world survives based on the intentions of good men at this point. In other words, in other words, that we have the ability to destroy ourselves, but
let's not.
Let's choose not.
Let's choose option B.
Yeah, exactly.
Or C or something. But not A. Destroy each other.
Absolutely.
Mutually assured destruction. MAD is what they called it at the time.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a good acronym for it.
It's pretty much it. Why else would you do that? So, but I think also, which maybe a topic for another time, maybe why we're in one of the most peaceful times in recorded history, because
because we do have the ability to destroy ourselves, but hopefully some cooler heads have prevailed. And
we're choosing not to.
Choosing not to. So that's good.
Yeah.
We can we can all be thankful for that.
Yeah.
That cooler heads have prevailed.
But also too, like just in our own lives, because I know I've encountered this more and more. There's certainly times where something maybe is going on in the workplace, where I could react a certain way and probably escalate that situation.
Sure.
Or I could not. And I think you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think some people may perceive that as weakness, that sometimes you choose not to attack. But I almost see it as a bigger strength.
There's a fascinating word that Jesus uses in the Sermon on the Mount, and we translate the word into meekness. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And a lot of people have looked at that and they go, isn't meekness just weakness? That you're not really strong enough to stop the other guy, so you just you do the dog version of showing him your belly to kind of give up or whatever. But the word is actually strength under control. The Greek behind it means strength under control, and they would have used it of a war horse that was trained for war but bridled. Mm-hmm. It would have been used of a strong individual that was choosing to hold their strength in check. So it wasn't a weak person that had no other choice. It was a strong person that was choosing to not exercise that strength. Much like some of the biggest guys that you know, a lot of them are teddy bears.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're really gentle people. Yeah. I knew a guy that was a ship worker. He was kind of a mechanic on some of the big ships up in Portland. This man was a mountain. I mean, he was massive. I loved watching him play with his little daughter. She'd climb up on his stomach when he was laying on the couch. One day she grabbed his beard and bailed off the couch.
Oh no!
I was watching. Yeah. This guy sat straight up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was totally gentle. Yeah. So he had this 2-year-old that obviously he could have destroyed, but he was totally gentle with these kids, and you could tell by the way they played with him that he was gentle all the time.
Yeah.
He wasn't, because you've seen people that are around somebody that's kind of grouchy.
Oh, sure.
You walk on eggshells around them.
Absolutely.
This guy had strength under control, in the physical realm. But I think in intellectually, just because we can beat somebody up intellectually doesn't mean we should.
Yeah.
Just because I can win the argument doesn't mean that I should even be in an argument with somebody.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
allow them to have their space too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
One of the things that I know the title sounds hokey, but it's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I've heard of it.
That's by Dale Carnegie. And one of the concepts is that you don't have to correct everybody that you think is wrong. So that this in the book he gives an illustration of this man who's a Shakespearean authority. I mean, he's an authority on Shakespeare. And his friend is sitting next to him, and then somebody that's also at this dinner party makes a factual error about Shakespeare. Well, both these two guys know that it's a factual error. And the friend of the authority kind of pokes him under the table and wants him to set the record straight about Shakespeare. And then he doesn't do it. And then after it's over, the friend says, well, why didn't you? He goes, I don't need to embarrass this guy that was wrong. There's no win in that. Why would I do that? And he was just incorrect, and eventually he'll find out he's incorrect, but he didn't need me to embarrass him over the issue in front of a room full of people.
Yeah, and I think that takes a huge
amount of strength. But he had the knowledge. He could have dismantled whatever the guy said, but he chose not to do that. And I think when we're in situations like that, we have to be careful, not only that we speak the truth, but that we speak the truth in love, is what the Bible says. So it's not just that I communicate facts, but I understand how those facts are going to be received, and really even that I deal them out in a way that the other person's going to be able to take them. So that Jesus wanted to tell his disciples some stuff, but he says to them, you're not ready for that right now. He goes, I want to teach you some things, but you're not there yet. And so they emotionally, spiritually, mentally weren't ready for that next nugget of truth. And sometimes we get so frustrated with somebody that is around us that doesn't see something exactly the way that we do, without realizing it took me 56 years to understand what I understand right now. So if my 15-year-old doesn't understand it, maybe I should cut him a little bit of slack.
Back off a little bit.
It took me 56 years to get here. Why should I expect a 15-year-old to be totally there with me?
Sure, yeah. Well, and one of the things that I was hearing as you were talking, so I'm retired from the Air National Guard, and one of the concepts that they they really instilled in us in basic training was this concept of not using excessive force.
Right.
And so certainly we have the military power to. But basically, I think what I was trying to hit on is, and you were kind of saying the same thing, is being strong doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use all of your power all of the time. Especially when we start talking about military might. I mean, the U.S. could do whatever it wants.
Sure.
Right? In most circumstances. Right. But we choose not to. And
right.
Maybe that's a reflection of greater strength. And I think that applies in our life, too.
To quote the immortal theologian Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
There you go.
And we have to use it wisely. I think whether the strength is military strength, personality strength. There's some personalities are stronger. I kind of have I can be a loudest voice in the room if I'm not careful, and so sometimes I have to be careful not to overwhelm the conversation. They say preachers are like cough syrup, a little bit goes a long way, and I'm kind of that way, so I have to be careful sometimes to moderate what I'm saying.
Well, you're in similar company. I think teachers are guilty too. That's right.
My wife just says I like the sound of my own voice. I don't know. That's what she says.
Stop lecturing all the time.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
My kids can never ask me a yes or no question because I don't answer yes or no, man. It takes 20 minutes for me to answer a yes or no question.
You gotta think about it.
I gotta think about it. Yeah.
And then of course, I love, one of my favorite lectures is to give a lecture on why we shouldn't lecture all the time.
Exactly.
That'll be on next week.
Yeah, next week the lecture.
That's right. Yeah. So, but we were talking about maybe transitioning a little bit, talking about habits. I liked what you were talking about, fast food.
Yeah, I'm listening to a book called The Power of Habit, and I can't remember the name of the author, but it's a great book, and how so much that we do in any given day is driven by habit. And one of the questions that they ask as they go, do you remember if you put your right sock on first or your left sock on first? You don't, because you typically just do it habitually. Mm-hmm. Do you remember if you brushed your teeth first or shaved first or whatever? They kind of ask this series of questions, and a lot of stuff we can't remember because we did it almost subconsciously. Mm-hmm. We did it habitually. There's a habitual way that we do things, an order that we do them, and probably that saves us from being like totally overwhelmed by the minutia of life. I mean, the first time that you drive a car, you get into a car and you're going to back your car out of the driveway. You get in, you consciously put your seatbelt on, you consciously discover where the brake and the gas pedal are, and you go through. If you had to think through that process, it would take you half an hour to back out of the driveway.
Yeah, absolutely.
But because we've developed the habitual ability to do it, we already know how to gauge distance in the mirror. We understand how it reverses things or whatever. We kind of understand how that works subconsciously. And so it's a great shortcut. But the danger is that it can overtake our lives. I mean, if we're not careful, we can just live habitually below the level of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Kind of exist without existing almost.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing.
No, not at all. You were talking about, was it Plato or Socrates?
Socrates.
A life without reflection is not a life worth living.
Yeah, the unexamined life is not worth living, he said. And he's right. I think we have to think about why we do what we do. Mm-hmm. One story I came across, this guy had retired and he moved into this quiet neighborhood. What he didn't know, it was on the pathway to a school. It was a middle school, and these kids would go by, and they were constantly banging on his trash can in his alley. And he knew kids enough to know that if he just went out and said, "You rotten kids, leave my trash cans alone," that they would, that they wouldn't do that. It would make them want to do it more.
Yeah.
So he goes out, and he says, "Oh, I just want to tell you," catches them after school, they're banging on the trash can. He goes, "Man, I just want to thank you guys for coming by and banging on these trash cans and stuff. Your exuberance for life has really added a lot to my life. And I've just enjoyed hearing you and hearing the rhythms that you do. What I'd like to do is I'd like to pay you $10 a week to come by and to bang on the trash cans and to do that." And so they come by after school every day. They come by, they're banging on the trash cans, and they're really exuberant about it. Comes Friday, and he goes, "Hey guys, I got a problem. I I can only pay you $5 a piece to bang on the trash cans. They go, $5 a piece?
Yeah.
We're not going to bang on your stupid trash cans for $5 a piece. And then they go, and mission accomplished.
Yeah, he won. Right?
He won.
Yeah,
He figured it out. And,
yeah.
one of the things that I was sort of chewing on as I was thinking about that, we were talking the other day about perspective.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And now it was impossible, once their perspective got shifted by this man and the words that he gave them, once they had a different why that they were doing what they were doing, they couldn't go back to the other way. They couldn't go back to the banging on trash cans just for the joy of banging on trash cans. They had a different why, and so it had shifted how they thought about it.
He changed their reality.
Yeah, and once their reality was changed, they had a hard time going back to the previous reality. And in a previous conversation that you and I had, we were talking about at different times in our life where our perspective is shifted.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's difficult to go back to the old perspective once you have the new perspective. What do you think about that?
Well, one of the things to throw out the word, I think, is postmodernism, right? It's this idea that language creates reality, which the first time that I heard that, I'm like, oh, you're crazy. Reality is reality, right?
Yeah.
Of course this is
real.
here, or maybe it's molecules.
It's emotion. Yes.
And it's a mostly empty space. It doesn't feel like
It feels solid.
But this was probably 15 years ago when I took a class. It was a philosophy class. And at the time I went, well, that's ridiculous. But since that time, I had deployed overseas several times.
Right.
And, it's a very different feeling when all of a sudden you realize you're outside of the continental U.S. and wait a minute, there's no constitution here in this country that I'm at, and thankfully I'm protected under, the UCMJ and international law and all those kinds of things. But it's a different game, right? A different reality.
Sure.
And so that's controlled by words. So in a way, I mean, the connection.
That's true, isn't it?
That the words are actually creating reality.
Well, that's powerful.
Yeah. So then one of my favorite things, because I came back and I'm trying to take all those experiences that I've had, and it doesn't have to be military, but in my case it was military, right? Lots of people have different experiences, but I'm trying to absorb all of that into my current reality, and what I find is they don't fit.
Right. Now you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
It doesn't work, right? So you either have two choices, basically. You either, and I'm going to use the language of the allegory of the cave by Socrates. My choice was to go back into my chains and be in the cave, or to accept the fact that I've been out of the cave and that my reality had changed.
And now you don't fit, in some senses, you don't fit into that old reality anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's uncomfortable, probably, even a little bit frightening to try to go back to what used to be home, and it doesn't feel like home.
Home's not there.
Home's not there because it's different.
It's here.
Have you ever gone back to a place you used to live at, and when you were little, it seemed so big and giant, and then you go back and you realize it was a cracker box.
Yeah.
It was absolutely tiny.
It's not the same at all.
And you don't even know how you slept in that room because your body barely fits in it now.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It's totally different when you come back with that new perspective of being, living life and getting some experience on you, then coming back and your perspective changes.
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't that sometimes make you wonder if the things that you're so certain about right now, will you be so certain about those things 5 years from now?
I think what I'm finding the further that I go is that I really don't know anything.
I don't know.
The only thing I know is that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I know that for sure.
For sure. I know for sure I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, but that's an uncomfortable place to be, but maybe it's the best place to be.
I think right now it's my reality, I think.
At least it puts us to the place of curiosity. Yeah. And curiosity is a good thing. If I'm curious, that's an empowered state. So if I'm curious about how the situation is unfolding, how it works, why it works, then I'm coming at a situation in an empowered way, probably able to bring about some change. But if I'm coming at the situation totally locked into everything that my way is the only way, I'm probably gonna run it, butt heads, get into a fight, not understand what the other person's trying to say. There's a whole lot of things that are going to go on there, probably negative things. But if I'm curious, then I can learn something out of the situation. I think it was Will Rogers that used to say, "I've never met a man that I didn't learn something from."
Yeah, good or bad. I mean, some of the most, for lack of a better word, some of the most awful people I've ever met have taught me the most.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, whatever I do, note to self, don't do that.
Right?
You're
Okay, we took a poll. We're going to transition to perspective.
perspective. I like talking about
100% of us in the room decided that.
100%. Yeah, both
Yeah.
agreed. Both,
Yeah.
all two of us.
All
yes,
two of
yes,
us.
right. I do think that perspective is probably the most important thing that I'm trying to work on right now in my life, is trying to have the right perspective. Because I've found that if I have the wrong perspective, I can get kind of almost into a victim stance of something, feel like it's me against the world or whatever, and that creates a whole cascading effect, bad effect in my life, where I'm beginning to get more defensive when I'm talking to somebody. I'm trying to defend my way of thinking, my point of view, that I have to be right, and I come to the place I don't necessarily have to be right, in the situation. I can disagree agreeably with somebody now. I used to not be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really hard thing, but I kind of think that's what our founders intended, is that we would be able to disagree, but then not necessarily burn the house down.
Yeah.
Right? So,
That's a good point.
The baby with the bathwater,
Yeah.
right? So,
we literally on the southern Oregon coast, we would take a bath in a galvanized tub out of the yard, because the only water in this house was a spigot that was outside, and the only heat in the house was a wood stove, and so my mom would heat water from the spigot outside on the wood stove, and then when it would get dark enough on a Saturday night, we would go out and take a bath, and we would start with the oldest down to the youngest. And so I literally understand how that by the time you got
could
the
have
last
a baby
kid in,
thrown.
you could hide a whole kid in that water after the last guy took the bath. And that was literally my reality. But even that was a part of shaping my perspective. That extreme poverty that I grew up in. We had an outhouse from the time I was in 3rd grade to the 9th grade. We had a wringer washer that you put clothes through. You'd wash clothes in essentially an open tub. It had an agitator in it. And then when you were done, you had to put clean water in it, rinse it out, and then you would run it through this wringer. And if you got your hands in there, it'd mash your hand. But fortunately,
like a cheese grater
ours
almost.
was technological enough that it had a panic deal that you could hit, and it would pop open.
Oh, okay.
So other older ones, man, you'd run your whole hand, but you couldn't stop. And this one, it had a stop on it. But that, coming from that perspective, changed how I feel about what I need to make me happy.
Yeah.
Because that was the happiest time in my life, was being a kid on the coast and just being out in nature. We lived on 15 acres. My grandpa had about 1.5 acres of berries, boysenberry, cascade, nectar, young, raspberries, strawberries, and we had a great time. But I was dirt poor, so.
Yeah.
But so I understand that money won't necessarily make me happy.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's super important. I think that, and there's been a lot of studies on that the happiest people aren't necessarily the most wealthy. Not that you can't be wealthy and be happy.
Sure.
There are people that are very wealthy, but
And happy. Yeah.
and happy. But I think that, I did a video a couple of weeks ago on asking what is success. I just kind of musing to myself, and one of the conclusions I came to was that certainly you need certain things, like you need food, water, shelter in general, right? But ultimately that's not going to make me happy.
Right.
And if I equate happiness to my success, really I get the most joy out of being a father, and a husband.
Okay.
And those are the things that I think.
So relational happiness would be a big thing with you.
I think so. And being outside, I love being up at my place up in the mountains, but I love that because I'm spending time with my family.
I think that's powerful. I as a pastor, I've been with people when they've died. I've literally been there when the monitor went black. And you never hear anybody say they wish they'd have spent more time at the office.
Yeah.
They want to call friends and family, and they want to see people that they connected with. And so I would say that at the end of life, they're talking about relationships. They're not talking about accomplishments. They're not talking about where they lived, how big the house was. they're talking about the time when them and their brother went down to the creek and they were skipping rocks or something. I mean, they're talking about they're thinking about activities that they went on, shared activities. One of the things that we found kind of in modern America is that your kids won't remember the stuff you bought them.
Yeah.
You know, they won't remember the Xbox or the whatever, the thing that won't mean something to them. What means something to them is the trip you took.
Yeah.
You know, the shared experience that you had doing something together. That's what they'll remember.
Yeah.
That's what will make a difference in their life. And we sometimes get that transposed around in America, where we think if we can just supply enough stuff to our kids, then they'll be able to be happy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
And I'm not sure where that started or where that comes from. I mean, obviously, I'm grateful to have a warm place to sleep at night. But I think I would agree with you when I look back to my childhood. What did I love? I mean, I was running all over the mountains of Idaho.
Yeah.
Right? Or going fishing with
Hard to beat that.
Yeah. I mean, how can you? At least for me, I'm a country boy, right? So to me, I'm a Huck Finn kind of guy, right? So, so I think that, what do they say? You can take the boy out of the mountains, but not the mountains out of the boy.
That's powerful.
So I think that, and for some other people, it might be other thing. It might be the park in the city or whatever it is.
It doesn't matter.
It's their thing.
But it's some simple thing. And one of the things that you and I both talked about, just in what I said and what you said, is had something to do with getting back to nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, getting out. Like you liked going to your cabin, which is kind of out in the Tules, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked the 15 acres, which was out. We were secluded, so secluded enough that you could take a bath in the front yard and not get arrested.
Nobody would
you know.
know.
So
Exactly.
So it certainly was secluded, and there's something about getting back to nature, or you mentioned the park, the city park. So somebody even in a town, it's really important that we have natural spaces that we can get grounded in.
Yeah.
We use the word grounded, and I think maybe we think it's an electrical term. I think in its original sense, it kind of meant getting back to the earth, you know. And isn't there something about kind of kicking off your shoes and being barefoot in the grass?
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't like being barefoot on gravel, but because my old feet, now in my old age, I'm a tenderfoot. When I was a kid, I could run across gravel with bare feet, and we were barefoot most of the time.
Yeah.
But now it feels special to me to be able to get out in the grass and kind of walk in the grass with my bare feet. I feel grounded in that, and I like walking down a trail. I just went hunting this last weekend, and what I liked was walking down that trail and looking up at these rugged mountains, and just seeing the wild nature that was there. I can't tell you how innovative that made my soul to do that.
Well, and maybe I'm wrong, and there might not be a way to say this, but maybe it's because so much of adult life is trying to control everything.
Right.
And when I'm out in the mountains, I'm not in control.
No, yeah, there's a lot of things you are, but you are not in control.
I am not the one in control, and it's pretty clear who's in control when I'm out there, right? I can see that when the sun comes up and the sun goes down.
We had gone up there, and this is my son Jordan's first time, and I said, "Hey, you need to be ready because it's going to be cold." And oh, Dad, I love cold. And I'm like, oh, no, buddy, this is a level of cold you don't understand.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand until the next morning. The next morning, they got down to 15 degrees. We were in a tent. There's frost inside the sleeping bag, or inside the tent on the sleeping bags. He's shivering, and his teeth are chattering. I'm like, this is cold, buddy. And he goes, how come you didn't tell me? I go, I did, but you couldn't hear. Because you heard cold, and you thought how cold it was in your room at night. This is cold.
How do you communicate something that they have no
reference?
The fancy word would be schema. But
they don't have a schema for it.
There's no concept of it, right?
But now his whole lifetime of perspective, he was shifted.
His reality
so now when he hears the word cold, he hears a different word than he heard before. Yeah. Same 4 letters, but it means something different to him now.
Yeah.
And because I'm a veteran of other hunting expeditions in October, so I already had the frame of reference. So my schema was there.
You know why you have triple socks
buddy, I had thermals and pants and and 3 layers of clothes on and a hoodie and a beanie cap on and glove. I mean, I was ready for the cold.
Oh yeah.
I knew what cold was and I was ready for it.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons I like going up to my place as well, is because I want my children to have some sort of concept. I think there's so much focus on in our society, like you were saying, they have to have everything, right?
Yeah.
I want them to know that less maybe is more.
Yeah.
And maybe just sitting there in front of your tent or your small camper or whatever it is and watching the sun come up, maybe that's so much more than stuff.
Every time I look at a sunset or a sunrise or a star field at night, my soul sings. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I just, especially as I've gotten older, I just totally appreciate just the experience of being there.
Yeah.
Because maybe it's because I'm aware that in maybe 20 years I'm not going to be here. You know, I mean, I'm 56, and so add 20 years to that, and I'm past when the median age of death is. In the last quarter of my life. I don't mean to be morbid, but certainly there's a limited number of sunrises and sunsets that I've got left, and so it might behoove me to kind of stop and look at them.
I better watch this one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And I wonder, one of the things we talked about before on a deal that didn't kind of take is we were talking about how busy we get, and maybe we spend so much time, so much screen time, that we don't live life. You know, sort of virtual reality versus virtuous reality. We need maybe to get out into real life. And I'm not an anti-tech guy. I mean, I have a Facebook page that's got nearly 2,000 friends on it. And I've got another page, it's a pastor page, got another 1,000 and another 500 on another thing. So I get the importance of connecting with people within that technological digital world. But one of the things that I would like to warn them about is let's not live here. I mean, let's visit here, but let's not live here.
Yeah. Well, make your own channel and communicate, right?
Make your own communication and make your own memories, and then so that you can share them with somebody else, maybe digitally. Maybe you know, one of the things that I did is I posted some pictures that I took of nature in an email, and then or on Facebook to my friends, so that maybe they could go, wow, I need to get out there again, you know, and so that they could kind of pull away from the digital world.
And it's very easy. So two thoughts went through my brain. One is, so I started making these relaxation videos, which is great, but there was, about 3 weeks ago, I was with my brother, which was a neat event, and 4 of these huge bucks went by, right? And I'm like, oh, I gotta film this. And I thought, what am I doing? I need to look at these bucks, right?
I need to film this, I need to see it.
So I did this, so that I could film it and watch it at the same time. But there's nothing, this is not the same as this. Seeing it with my own eyes.
True. I mean, and here's the thought. I mean, you know, what is it? I can't remember the group of philosophy that this flows out of, but it's the idea that if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to see it, does it make a sound? You know, and if there's not this observer, is it really important? And maybe we need to get into experiencing life more, you know, just experiencing that thing and hearing that sound and seeing that sight, and without the burning desire to record. I mean, when I grew up, we didn't take pictures of the food we ate.
Yeah.
We didn't. You know, I have literally, I have to confess, I have taken pictures as an adult of the food that I
did prepared. A food video last week.
That I prepared. I did this food, and I took a picture of it because it looked so good, and I wanted to share it with my Facebook family. Yeah. You know, but when I was a kid, we didn't take pictures of the food we ate.
No, we ate the food.
We ate the food.
Yeah.
Tasted the food. It was good food.
That was good food.
And we said, thank you, Mom, and we experienced it. And I worry that we're missing that level of experience. So almost like if we didn't record it, did it not happen?
Yeah.
You know,
It's almost like the Roman gladiator effect in a modern way. Like, I don't want to actually go out there and have this gladiator experience. I'm going to watch it, because then I'm not fully committed to it, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously, the consequences of being a gladiator are more extreme than taking pictures of food, but
is it kind of the same thing? My kids will watch a video of a kid playing a video.
Blew my mind. I have seen that. In fact, I laughed so hard. My dad used to make jokes with us at Christmas time. He says, well, not a lot of money this year, so I'm getting you a picture of people having fun. Now we actually watch videos of other people having fun.
That's crazy, but it's true, isn't it?
It's true. It's absolutely true. Unboxing, right?
Yeah. Unboxing videos.
Yeah.
That's probably the joy of the unboxing video, of watching somebody unbox.
Watch someone else.
You got the new phone, so he opens it up and he looks at the newest whatever, you know, the Sam whatever.
Yeah.
Opens it up and looks at it, because you can't say the name, because I don't know, maybe what we'd have to pay a royalty.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah.
Sam's.
Yeah.
But you open it up, and so we get a vicarious thrill out of the first time that you see the new phone.
Thing.
You pull it out. Ooh,
Yes. Isn't it weird though? Like, and so I finally, so part of my motivation for creating the channel was I'm watching my children watch all this stuff, and I thought, my goodness, why don't I make videos and then maybe my children will watch me?
Powerful,
right? And so then I am back in their lives again, right? So
well, I think that's what we have. We have to be digitally connected right now. I mean, I don't know if we're serious about communicating and reaching a large group of people. We're going to have to do it digitally. I don't know. With ministry, it's one of the things. That's the reason I have the number, the people that I have on my pages is because I use it as a digital ministry.
We're connected.
And so there's a group that's out there right now that's doing a thing where they're getting stories, getting everybody started, give them 15 minutes of time, and they're interviewing people and kind of getting their story. And it's an audio project that they're doing. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a really good thing. And maybe that's a positive side of social media, is maybe it's a chance for us to get to tell our stories. Because a lot of times, our kids are not going to ask us questions about our youth. They're just not. They don't have the bandwidth for it. They don't have the experience to even know to ask the questions. But at our age, we're smart enough now that we're beginning to ask the older generation above us, what was it like for you?
What was that like, right? Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so now, because of what your channel is, your kids can hear some of your story because of this.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
And that was kind of my hope is in a way, you know, I mean, my parents have the 8mm film of me, right? But maybe, you know, after I'm gone and my son is my age or older, he can watch some of these and go, that's what Dad was thinking about? That's interesting, because I'm struggling with the same stuff right now.
I have a friend who her mom kept diaries, journals her whole life, and one of the treasures that she has is her mom's diaries. Her mom passed, and she has these journals and these diaries, and she's read through them, and it helped her to see what her mom was thinking, you know, at certain times in her life as a treasure to her.
Yeah.
And I'm not a diary writer or a journal writer, but something like this I could do, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would be there something that my kids could look back on and go, oh, I see. This is what Dad was thinking when he was 56. You know, this is, and he's describing a time 30 years ago when he first had a kid, and when I first held my first little baby, and I looked at that little bundle and the profound feeling that was in my life when I held that baby, and how it changed everything.
Oh no! Now I'm responsible.
Oh no! That was exactly it.
I'm super happy, but at the same time, I've got to be the grown up now.
I posted a picture of me doing a wedding, and there was a comment that was made on Facebook about how nervous the guy looked. And what I posted below it, I said, if you have a man that's getting married and he doesn't look nervous, he doesn't understand what he's getting into. Yeah. You know, because it does change you.
It does.
This moment that I'm making this commitment, everything is going to be different. There's 2 of us now.
Yeah.
And then when you add 3 of us, and in my case, 7 of us, and plus me and Sandy, and you know, and then the Fosters and stuff, it creates a different dynamic and a different level of responsibility. And so if in a YouTube video or a podcast or whatever, if I could capture that feeling, then maybe when one of my sons is getting ready to go to the altar and he looks back at a video where I describe the feeling, the nervousness that I felt walking up that altar on August the 4th, 1984 to marry my wife, and when she leaned over and winked at my brother to embarrass him, you know, and if I could describe that and he could see that, he'd go, wow, it's normal for me to feel this way.
It is normal, and I think it's good that hopefully they'll have some sort of record of that, and just the fact that it's just that shared humanity too.
Sure.
You know, my grandmother put together a book, and I'm reading it, but by the first 5 pages, I'm into this, right? Because she's describing her mother, which is my great grandmother, who I knew but not well because I was young, having to at 9 years old be put on a train because one of her, I believe it was great grandpa that was passing, and the only doctor they could get was in Canada, so they had to take the train from Kansas. Like she was in charge of that, right?
9-year-old.
Yeah, and so then I'm going, I guess I'm a whiner.
Right?
So maybe my day wasn't that bad, So.
And I do think that if we could understand what previous generations went through, probably it would cause us not to fall into the victim stance as much as we do.
We have it pretty good.
We've got it pretty good.
Yeah.
Even on the hardest day, this was pretty good. I mean,
there was that one time where we couldn't take both our vehicles to work,
yeah,
so we all had the same
one.
car.
I rode together.
Yeah.
When I went to Belize, we went up the Belize River on a boat. And it was kind of a cool experience. The dolphins or porpoises or something were kind of jumping in the wake of the boat, and you'd seeing that, and watching the monkeys in the trees. But there were indigenous peoples that were beside the river, and they were washing their clothes in the river. That they literally were washing clothes the way that my grandparents would have washed their clothes. And so just seeing that, as I went back, every time I load my washer at my house, I think about how I could be washing my clothes. Even my wringer washer of my youth was a massive upgrade compared to carrying all of your laundry down to the river, bashing it against a rock, agitating it with your hands, carrying it wet back, wringing it out, carrying it back up to find some place to hang it on. That's a lot of work, brother. I'm talking about your laundry now is an all-day deal of massive manual labor. I can just toss it in a machine, push a button, walk away from it, come back, and it's pretty much done. There's even a machine now that will fold your laundry for you. I'm not kidding you. The machine, look it up. You put your shirt in, and it will put a folded shirt down at the bottom.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Dude, it's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have one.
Yeah, I don't have one either.
I don't have one. Well, I mean, I've heard of these fridges that you will order. Like they'll keep track of your food and then and then they deliver it to your door. Right? So I already weigh too much. I mean, I would never leave the house.
My 12 pints of ice cream are here.
I had to wait 20 minutes for that.
You were late. I'm not paying a tip to you.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, I think things definitely have changed. And I often, we took the kids over the coast and went through Lewiston and Clarkston, and I made that connection. Oh, Lewis Clark, that makes sense, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So we stopped, of course. I think what is the name? It's Hell's Gate. I think up there. And we listened to the history of Lewis and Clark and all of that. I found very fascinating, especially when they're describing what happened to them in the mountains and all of that. But we leave there, and we're about an hour away, right? We're into Washington now, and we drive past Lewis and Clark Memorial Highway or something to that effect. My daughter goes, "What's all this Lewis and Clark stuff? What's the big deal? Why? We've been driving past it for hours." And I said, "Honey, they walked all of that we've been driving
across wilderness."
Yeah, there was no road, there was no highway. Nothing. Yeah, and her face just went, "Why would anyone do that?" So, be grateful that they did.
Yeah,
that's all I could say. And we're like, "Oh, gee, I'm a little sweaty. I better turn down the heaters." They do 85 over the
climate controlled, climate controlled car. There's
a
phrase that came to my mind one time. It came to my mind: hurtling past hurting humanity in a climate controlled car. Hurtling past hurting humanity in a climate controlled car. And I don't know why, but it just sort of has always stuck in my mind that that's kind of what we do. We sort of hurtle past all this stuff that's going on around us without ever really looking at it or being aware of it. It's almost like we have blinders on, and originally we're talking about perspective. Anthony Campolo, it was a sociology professor at Eastern College, and he would take every year a trip of his sociology students down to Haiti, and they would feed the hungry. And literally, they raise money, bring massive amounts of food down, and feed thousands of Haitians. It's an amazing thing. And he said, every kid has to do one job down there. There's one job every kid has to do that it's in my class. And he said, it's not serving, it's not washing dishes. Every kid has to take a turn at the end of when the food runs out. They've got to stand there until 100 people or 200 or 1,000 people that there's no more food. And he said when I go back the next year, he said those kids will raise more money and more food because they had to look into somebody's eyes that was starving to death and tell them there's no more food.
Yeah.
His perspective was shifted.
Yeah, the reality changed. Yeah, and yeah, I know one of the experiences that really bothered me and still bothers me is, and of course people go hungry every day and it's awful, but I was in Uzbekistan of all places, and I had the opportunity to leave the base because they'll do a threat assessment. I had the opportunity to leave the base. They said it was safe enough that you can go on this tour to the old Silk Road. I'm a history nerd.
Oh, sure.
The old Silk Road, I'm in,
Sure.
right? I
See it.
the first thing I thought when we landed in the Middle East was, man, can I see the pyramids now? Right?
Why are we waiting? Let's go.
Oh, there's a war on. You gotta wait.
You're kind of busy.
Darn it. So we go, and I didn't pay much attention to these kids that were standing outside the gate. You've got these sandbags and razor wire and all this kind of stuff, and we get on the bus, and we're gone for about 12 hours. Saw amazing things, and just absolutely beautiful. The old Silk Road is still there because people still use the old Silk Road.
Yeah,
they walk from China,
highway, yeah.
right? Yeah. So, but we came back 12 hours later, and I had not really eaten the lunch because I didn't really like it, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm getting off, and I've got this rice and half-eaten sandwich, and then I noticed the kids. They come up to me, and their eyes are sunken in, and they're really skinny. And that's the first time I really looked at them. They stood there for 12 hours, knowing that the Americans would have half-eaten food that they could then give, and so I gave that to them, and they're telling me thank you, and I'm thinking I'm such a jerk. Right? So it's humanity, right? So it's just sad.
I think we need to see more of the world. Those are kind of intentional perspective shifting things that we need to go on, right? To bring us to another awakening out of our cave moment that you were talking about earlier. To anything that gets us outside of our little cave of habits, of routines, of structure, and can cause us to see something that we didn't know was there.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing.
And the difficult thing, at least for me, was then going back into the cave and initially trying to communicate what I saw, and then finding out they don't really want to hear that.
Yeah, because they're comfortable there, and
well, it doesn't even make sense to them, and it shouldn't make sense from their perspective.
It's like my son's version of cold. He knew what cold meant. He didn't need me to tell him what it meant. But once he experienced that different level of cold, he went, "Whoa! Why didn't you tell me?" And I'm like, "I did, but you couldn't hear it." And I think we try to talk to people that are in the cave, and maybe it's not talk that they need. Maybe it's just an experience that they need.
Experience, yeah.
And maybe what your video channel can do is you can take them, at least in a digital sense, maybe you can take them on some of that journey.
Yeah, talk through some of those stories and
Yeah.
things like that. So, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. So, but I know you've got a Bible study tonight.
Bible study tonight,
Yeah.
Anxious for Nothing,
Yeah.
Max Lucado. I'm
Oh.
going through one of his books. It's on a study on Philippians chapter 4, and he's talking about finding calm in a chaotic world. And Max is great. He's
Right
a
up our
pastor in
alley.
Texas,
Yeah.
and he's written some amazing books. He's an artist with words. He takes words and paints pictures with them.
Yeah.
He kind of talks about how, we talk about breathing, as a way to calm ourselves down, and that is a good way. But he said really there's a spiritual way that's beyond that. He said if I just kind of am using some deep breathing techniques, as good as that is, he said it may be like taking a toothpick to a jousting match. You know, I thought, what a beautiful picture of me taking a toothpick to jousting. Of course, is with the lance and the two knights riding one another and trying to knock each other off. And if I've only got my toothpick, it might not be the most effective weapon. And so tonight we're going to be talking about that and about how to move to that next level of kind of finding calm, rejoicing in the Lord always in the midst of what can be chaotic circumstances.
I love Max Lucado. I did a video on one of his children's books, and I just like his messages and his thinking, and it might have even been from their Facebook site that I ended up subscribing to his site. So
very great.
Yeah. But thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks
for
having
it again. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It was a hoot.